Hello. For this group project, we decided to talk about the topic of zoos, and this section will be explaining the side against zoos. This is group 1. The members in the group are Claire Ramos, Eden Areras, Carolyn Boster, and Krista Benson. This is Animals in Society, November 29th. Some background information. A zoo is a place where a variety of exotic animals are kept in captivity. The first recorded zoos were called menageries, which were a collection of wild animals kept by the wealthy as a sign of power. The earliest recorded menagerie was around 2500 BCE. The public zoo became popular in the 18th century during the Age of Enlightenment as science extended into zoology. Scientists wanted to be able to study animal behavior and anatomy, which required close observation that resembled their natural habitats. The first modern zoo was built in Paris, France in 1793, called the Ménagerie des Jardins des Plantes. Early zoos were more like museums of living animals, where animals were kept in small display areas with as many species as space would allow. There are now several different types of zoos, such as urban, suburban, safari, game reserve, and petting zoos.
My name is Carolyn Boster, and I did the discussion of the ethical aspects of zoos and the cultural and sociological importance of zoos. To kick it off, discussion on the ethical aspects of zoos when talking about being against zoos. Is it ethical for humans to get involved with wild and untamed animals? There's a circle of life, and the main purpose of zoos today is to rehabilitate and to rescue animals who are unable to survive in the wild and the protection of endangered species. And because of this, are we causing more harm than good to the circle of life? Are we keeping around animals that just really need to die off? I mean, there's a bigger conversation on animals and our role in that, but are we causing a disturbance in the circle of life? And then next, is it ethical to house wild animals and allow public viewing? PETA talks a little bit about this in their 9 reasons to not visit zoos. Is suburban and urban-based zoos often do not have true representations of the actual animal habitats and what they look like in the wild. So then, is it ethical then, and are the animals being harmed or endangered because of how these zoos are being designed? And then, is it wrong to be charging admission and making profit on these animals that have no use for our monetary system and how we value money? And are we using them as entertainment and not just doing what's right for the animals? Next, as cultural importance. Wild animals are most often found in zoos are often from the regions of Africa and Asia, and the vital importance of these animals for sustainable agriculture and the life of the native tribes in most of the areas where these animals are found. Are zoos that are housing these animals affecting the life cycle of humans in other regions of this world? And enclosing them in facilities around the world, are we taking away from natural cycles that happen in our world? And the next is the validity of the education being provided in zoos. Most of what American knowledge is based on the zoos and the wild animals that are typically found in the regions of Africa and Asia. And is there any regulation on how these zoos are educating students? Is there any overseeing to what is being taught? And is it true and is it right? And are the zoos educating properly? And should we take what these zoos are saying is gospel to how these animals truly live and the impact of the regions. And should students and families be doing their own research on top of what is provided in zoos to get a more holistic idea of these animals? And next is the sociological importance. Are zoos actually sociologically important? One can say there's necessity for zoos to inform and educate the general population on animals and life cycles outside of their home regions. But is there a less controversial way of doing this? Are having the animals present more impactful, or can we get the same results with videos and diagrams and replicas of these animals without actually having the animals there? And there's a thing to be said on is this a power move by humans? Part of the sociological conversation is the power structure in this world. So are zoos a way of humans showing our power over wild animals that are deemed to be predators of us? Are we trying to change what is naturally right? And then next are the pros of educating through hands-on visual learning more dangerous to animals than beneficial to humans? Do our good intentions on saving animals, are they really doing more good than they are bad?
So hi, my name is Claire Ramos. Now moving on to the current events going on in zoos. So I will just say really quickly, viewer discretion is advised, as some of the images that I used may be a bit hard for people watching, and it may be just heartbreaking to see them. So a zoo in China in 2023 has been seeking money for the starvation of animals in their zoo, leading to some deaths. So if a zoo can't make enough money to support their animals and they are dying because they are not getting the nutrition that they need to keep up with their everyday lives, then it's just overall harmful to them, and it makes the zoo look bad, and it just breaks a lot of people's hearts to know that the zoos are starving animals because they cannot make enough money. And then it is also said here that a local roadside zoo was fined $13,500 in 2022 for mistreating animals and leaving them in poor health. It is also heartbreaking to hear that, because when you own a zoo, you're responsible for taking care of the animals, which means that they need to get the proper medical treatments that they need and the proper health care and everything. And to be left mistreated and in poor health, even for animals that are pregnant, it's completely outrageous to hear. And so because of that, the zoo was fined money for their mistreatment of the animals. And now, a zoo in Dallas in 2022 was questioned about killing a vulture and planning 3 animal escapes. Now, fun fact, this zoo, specifically in Dallas, has had a lot of articles written about it for the numerous amount of cases that have been going on there for a couple years now. And it was said that the vulture, when it died, it did not look like it died of natural causes. They were saying that it looked like the vulture was shot. And this vulture is one of the 6,500 that still exists. So by shooting and killing a vulture is purposely killing a species, leading it to further extinction. And then it was also said that the planning of the 3 animal escapes was also outrageous to hear, because it's just the zoo's way of wanting to gain attention because of the amount of articles that was written about this specific zoo in Dallas. And now moving on to more current events going on at the zoos. The Smithsonian National Zoo is failing to help keep the animals' health with the air quality. Just like people, when the air quality gets bad, we suffer with asthma or any other things. And then anyone with already pre-existing health conditions and having to face air quality, we suffer even further. And just like animals, or just like us, animals need to breathe. And so if they are having bad air quality, then it's just going to have them suffer even further and possibly get sick and die, because with bad air quality can lead to bad health and possible future diseases and illnesses. And then hundreds of zoos as of 2022 have been causing harm to animals, separating the families and traumatizing the babies. Just like that, a San Diego zoo has broken the spirits of animals with breaking their family bonds and leaving them alone with no companions. The elephants were grouped in a family of 4 generations, and to be separating them, it caused them to have depression, to have no one with them, and it just left them depressed and upset. And now moving on to why we are against zoos. Many people want virtual reality zoos because it prevents the animals from being in a physical confinement, having to sit in a habitat while people look at them all day. And then although zoos claim they release animals back into the wild, that's not always the case. So it leaves people questioning how long they are actually being held captive. And then people question whether zoos are actually educational or entertainment. They can never tell what's true. And then being kept in captivity can lead to psychological distress on the animals' well-being. And then some more reasons on why we're against zoos is they cannot fully replicate animals' natural habitats, which can affect how the animals behave. And then animal behavior or conservation are questioned by people in how animals behave in their habitat can differ, giving off the wrong education to people. And some individuals even argue that zoos are in it for the money and not the well-being of the animals.
Hello, my name is Dean and this is Knowledge Against Zoos. Zoos are a business who care about profit. This was said by In Defense of Animals. Zoos care about making money and not as much about how the animals actually feel or how they are treated. Zoos cruelly treat animals. They kidnap them from the wild, taking them away from their homes, from families that they may have had, and then they isolate them from other animals they may have seen in their own habitat or in the wild, making them alone. And some animals gain a mental illness called zoochosis. Zoochosis is a illness that animals can get from being in isolation or being in a zoo for a very long time. Some symptoms of this is pacing. They may also pluck feathers or pull fur. They have eating disorders. They may chew the bars of which in the cages that they are placed in. And many animals aren't suited for zoos. Many of the animals that are in zoos used to live in very large environments in the wild, like a lion. They may be in a small enclosure, but they would have many miles of territory in the savannas in which they lived. Many of the animals in the zoos aren't endangered. Yes, there are some animals, but most of the animals there are not, and are just there for people to look at. Our overall conclusion is that zoos are bad, and people should stop supporting them. Zoos have a lot of bad habits and tend to treat animals in ways that are inhumane and should be stopped. There are other ways that better help animals and will actually do good for them. This is like animal conservations who actually attempt to rehabilitate animals and actually hope that the animals can go back into the wild. Zoos have a really long history of mistreating animals. The San Diego Zoo has been known to break apart families of animals like elephants, and there are many cases of which zoos have malnourished their animals that they have. Also, just having animals in zoos is just morally wrong. There are better ways to show animals without mistreatment, like in this new day and age, there is VR, which allows us to still really closely see animals, but we don't have to lock them up in a cage, allowing them to be more free, and we don't actually have to take them out of their environment. Animals should be in the wild and not in a confined space. And this is why zoos are